Here we have the inside of the auto sleeper symbol. If we firstly come to the main control panel and we just tap it anywhere, it will illuminate, and then if we press just here we can turn the 12 volt on. You'll see along the top here that it's displaying the external temperature. We get this little picture of a sun just here whenever the solar panel is active. We have a little lightning strike, which is just letting us know that we have mains supply connected to the van. It's then given us the humidity in the middle and the internal temperature just here. Just underneath the main on-off button, we then have the water pump. Water pump needs to be on so we can get water out of the taps and fill the boiler if it's been drained down. Beneath this we then have water levels. So at the moment there's 50% water in the fresh tank and absolutely nothing in the waste tank. We then have power levels. So we have condition of the leisure battery, condition of the vehicle battery, basically what the active battery is doing. So you'll see at the moment we're using the leisure battery to run the back end, so it's just letting you know how many amps you're either using or have coming in depending. And then because we're hooked up to the main supply, we have the mains current and then the solar current just there. Here we have the main isolator for the majority of the onboard lights. They can then all be individually turned on and off on their own switches. And then we have awning light on and off just here. This will also do the little entrance light just above the sliding door. After that we then have battery selection. So V for vehicle, L for leisure. Whichever battery is highlighted on this screen here is the battery you are using to run the back end of the van, and when hooked up to the main supply, that is the battery you are charging. If we now press the cog, we will then go into the settings menu. So you'll see that everything at the moment in regards to charging is set in smart mode. So whichever battery is being charged by the main supply, the solar panel will then do the opposite. So if I now switch to charge the vehicle battery, you'll now see the solar switches over to the leisure. If in smart mode, you just leave it like this, they will cycle. On this side here, we then have automatic tank fill. So you need this one on if you're going to be using the Whale smart fillers on the outside of the van. It just makes the solenoid live, and also the 12 volt pins on the outside live if you're going to be using the submersible pump. Beneath that we then have tank heaters. So we have waste tank and fresh tank. If you're going to be using the van in extremely cold climate, you can pop these on to avoid any frost damage occurring to the water tanks. Next we have lights that come on when you turn the main power on. So at the moment the main lights will come on and the awning light. Key beeps are on, water level alarms are on, so if your fresh is low it will let you know, and if your waste is high it will let you know. Set the brightness of this backlight, then set how long you want before this particular screen times out when you're not touching it. Set the clock, set the date, and then back round to the beginning again. Beside the main control panel We then have the Truma control panel for the heating and hot water. So if we now turn it on just by holding in the button just here, you'll see on initial startup it displays the time, and again will also let you know if you have mains electricity connected. If I now press the button, we will get all of these icons, and as I rotate they will begin to flash. So if we start with the first icon just here, this is for your heating. So if I now click on it, heating is off. All we now need to do is just rotate it and pick whatever temperature you would like it to be inside the van, right the way up to a rather toasty 30 degrees. So let's say we want it to be 20 degrees in here. Click on it to store it in, and you'll see we now have a flame above. That flame there just represents the heating system, and it's just letting you know that you have set a parameter. Whenever the heating is in operation, that flame will begin to flash, and it will continue to flash until the temperature has been achieved. The thermostat is just here. After heating, we then have hot water, and again hot water is off. Now rotate and we can heat hot water in eco mode, which will give us a temperature of about 40 degrees. We can heat in hot, which will give us a temperature of about 60 degrees. And we can also perform a boost on the boiler. The boost is extremely handy, especially if you want to have a longer shower, or if there's going to be more than one of you having a shower in quick succession of each other. If you do perform the boost and the heating is running, you will see that the heating turns off because the boost needs that extra power. But if I now drop it back down to eco, you'll see they've both come on and will continue to flash until the temperatures have been achieved. If we now move to the next icon, this one here is power source selection. So we are currently using mains electricity using 2 kilowatts. If I rotate, I can lower the power consumption to 1 kilowatt. So if we're on a low amp site, to try and avoid tripping. We can run in dual fuel, so we can run on a mixture of gas and mains at 2, or a mixture of gas and mains at 1. This particular setting is very handy, especially in the winter months. If you want to get up to temperature nice and quickly, it will only use gas as it is required. And then if we don't have any main supply, we can solely run on gas. The next icon is the circulation fan for the heating system. So currently the fan is in eco mode. We can turn it up to high. This circulation fan can also be used to vent. If we now turn off both hot water and heating and now return to it, you can see we can put it into vent mode, and it has a fan speed of 1 to 10. So on a warm day, if you just want to circulate the air, you can do so. If we now drop to the lower icons, this first one here is for a basic timer. So if we now just set a start time and then an end time, once we've done this, we can then pick what we would like on within that time period. Once you've done that, timer on or off. If I now activate the timer icon will come up here, and now within that time period those settings would apply. If I now return to it, I can turn the timer back off, and when we go back in we can then alter it again. The next icon is just clock set. And then lastly we have the settings menu. So within that we have offset, which is just for the thermostat just here. If you don't think it's quite correct, you can just slightly adjust it. Temperature, just if you prefer it displayed in Celsius or Fahrenheit. Brightness of this screen. 12 or 24 hour clock. Language. Index, which is more for the technicians, it just lets them know what software it's running. And then full factory reset. From time to time, these particular control panels can throw up error codes. They will usually be something basic. So it may be letting you know that you don't have main supply connected, or that it's failed to light on gas. And another error code you can get is if you turn off the main 12 volt whilst this control panel is on. Let me just turn, so there we go. As you can see, we now have W255H, which is just letting us know that it is not detecting 12 volt. So if we now turn this back on again, the error code will automatically go back out. So 9 times out of 10, any error code that appears on here, if you rectify the problem, the error code will just disappear. If it doesn't disappear virtually straight away, just go back to it and double click on it, and it will then sometimes say no error and then disappear. If you still have no luck with that, if you still have anything running along the top here like heating or hot water, just turn them off, because it can assess a lot faster when it's not trying to do lots of things at once. If that still hasn't worked, I then always suggest the good old-fashioned turn it off and turn it back on again, and that's just hold the button in. If when you turn it back on again you still have an error code, I then always just suggest doing the factory reset, because from time to time, like any electrical device, they can glitch and may just need to be reset. This Truma system can also be controlled via the Truma app. If you want to use that, you just need to go and download it onto either your phone or a tablet. Once you've done this, if you then launch the app, you will see that on the screen you have a little button that says remote control. If you then press on that, you then just need to follow the on-screen instructions. It will firstly ask you to come to the iNet box. So if we now go into the wardrobe, you'll find the iNet box just here. It will basically ask you to press the Bluetooth button. So if I now press that, you'll see the blue light begins to flash, and then you will start to connect up. Once you have connected, you will then be able to control your heating and your hot water locally via Bluetooth. What you can also do if you want to is, where my finger is just up here, is a slot for a SIM card. So if you purchase a pay-as-you-go SIM card and pop that in there and register it through the app, you can then control your heating and your hot water from much further afield. Also in here, we have the digital amplifier for the MaxView television aerial on the roof, on and off, just here, and then control the boost just on the inner dial. Also in here we have the table leg. If we now actually come to the Avtex television, it behaves like most ordinary TVs, on and off, just here. With this being a travel television, as it were, it runs off 12 volt, and you'll see it's plugged in just here, and then the aerial fly lead comes off here. These televisions also have a DVD player in this side, and then USB connectivity along the top just here. We have the television guide just here, like so. Just pick on here, and if, as you can see at the moment, I don't have a particularly good signal, or you have no signal at all, these particular televisions have a fast retune button just here. Just press, hold in, and it will take you straight back to the retune menu. You'll see on the blue bar there you get your signal strength, and then just hit OK, and then it will retune itself back in again. If we now come to the bench seat just here, and we just remove the cushions, you will see just here the little table, and as I've just stated a moment ago, the table leg itself is in the wardrobe. If we now pop it up, we can see in here the Truma boiler. The Truma boiler's drain valve is just here. So to drain the boiler down for winterization, all we need to do is twist this blue diamond. When we twist this blue diamond, this blue button just here will pop out. Make sure before you do this that the water pump has been turned off, or otherwise the water pump will just be frantically trying to refill the boiler. So now close, back up again, twist, and then press. These particular drain valves are also automatic, so if the internal temperature of this van drops below 3 or 4 degrees, this blue button will automatically pop itself out and it will drain the boiler down to avoid any frost damage. If this happens, all you need to do to reset it is just push the button back in. If it's not staying in, it's just too cold in the van and you'll need to turn your heating on to allow it to reset. Also in here we have the battery charger, and then we have the solenoid for that Whale smart filling system. We also have in here the leisure battery, and then tucked down here we have some 12-volt fuses. They are all labelled up on the label just here, but these particular fuses are for more stuff on the outside of the van, like the tow electrics, marker lights, etc. Tucked down here we have some gas isolation taps. They are all in the on position. They can stay like that. I always say if you do smell gas in the van, it's always better to go underneath the van and actually isolate the gas tank itself. If we now come underneath the oven, we have the location of the consumer unit. So we have here the mains trip switches. So we have the 3 individual MCBs and the main RCD and test button just here. Again, they're labelled up and will correspond in the Auto Sleeper handbook. And then we have the 12-volt fuses just here, and again they're numbered up and correspond in the handbook. So if something's not working on mains, just check to see whether or not you're tripped, and if something's not working on 12-volt, just check to see whether or not you've blown a fuse. Tucked up the top here we have isolator buttons. These are for components that use mains electricity. So this orange one here is for the heating and hot water system. So if we turn this off and we are using the Truma control panel and trying to select main supply, we will get an error code. Again, this is more for maintenance, so it can stay in the on position. We then have the green one, which is for the battery charger, and again we want to be able to charge the leisure and vehicle batteries when we're hooked up to main supply. This one here that isn't illuminated will light up if you have reverse polarity connected to the van. You will only really find this on some sites in Europe. And then lastly, just in this corner here, we have full system shutdown. So if you're planning on not using the van for long periods of time, you can press this button here and it will shut down the back end and kill any residual draw on the leisure battery. We now have the microwave. It is advisable to remove everything for travel. Isolator just up here for it. And then it behaves like most microwaves. You have your quick start just here and your stop, power settings, twist for time, or if you've selected weight, etc., you can all pop it in just here. Beneath it we have the extractor, light on and off just here, and then fan on and off just here. We then have the 3 gas rings. They are just push in, twist and press the igniter. Beneath that we then have the oven and the grill. And it's pushing to the left for the oven. And if we now push in to the right, we can then fire up the grill. At the back of the van we have the Thetford fridge freezer. On and off on this square here. Once we've turned it on, we then just want to hold in the grey button to select the power source. So you'll now see it's flashing. Use the arrow keys and then move across to pick what you want to use. So we have a picture of a 2-pin plug, which is main supply. We have a flame for gas and a battery for 12-volt maintain for when the vehicle is in motion. So let's say we want it on main supply. Select with the grey button and it will then move across to the temperature control. Again, use your arrow keys and then press the grey button again and you'll now see we're running on main supply at level 3. If I now want to put it onto gas, hold it, go over to the flame, select again and again, and it will now automatically light itself onto gas. If it fails to light, it will begin to flash and you will get a red light just here. And this will also happen if you're trying to run it on mains and you don't have main supply, or if you're trying to run it on 12 volt and the engine isn't running. So if I now go to it and select, you'll see it will now all flash and the red light illuminates. To turn the unit back off again, just hold the button in and we then have the freezer box at the top. And for when you're not using it, you do have a little venting arm just here that can come out and then clip into the little holder just here. If we now move into the washroom, we have the Thetford toilet just here. So to open to the cassette, just slide the grey lever across and then push the blue button to flush. Level indicator for the cassette is just here, so it will rotate round to red when it needs emptying. Do make sure that you've closed the blade back up again. If this has been left open and you try to remove the cassette, it will not come out. So if you do feel resistance, just make sure nobody has left it open. We then have the basin just here. Tap, pulls out. And then make sure that when you tip it away, you just tip it away nice and slowly, because if you tip it away too quickly, it will just slosh out at you. Any of these ceiling lights are touch, so you just need to touch the center to turn them on.